Nanda Mohan Shenoy is a CISA CDPSE.
Good afternoon. So what we are going to talk today is data privacy assurance, IS 17428. What is IS 17428 is a quiz question for you. In the poll, you have to answer it. I will not tell you. As we go along, we will see it. Okay, so we are going to talk on this for the next 45 minutes. So the agenda, before we start as auditors, we have to all give disclaimers. Okay, I always start with a disclaimer slide, which is very, very important. So the views expressed in this presentation are purely the personal views of the speaker. It is neither of Visakha Chennai nor Bestfit Solutions. You can agree to disagree also. Okay, if you disagree, it's a good thing for me. If you disagree, we will have a drink today evening and we can discuss over it with the cost is to you. Okay, then. So copyrighted presentation belongs to the respective one. It is only used for educational purposes. Okay, so we are going to have 6 different things which we are going to talk. Can you have this here? I've got my clock here. Okay, I'll check the time here. Please have this here. Okay, so 6 specific things which we are going to talk is opening thoughts and global landscape of privacy. So before we talk about IS 17428, as I always say, we have to set the context for the talking. We cannot enter into the subject straight away. So we have to set the context. So context is privacy. We'll talk about opening thoughts and global landscape of privacy. Then we'll talk about the Indian landscape of privacy. Then we come to IS 17428. Then we will talk about deep dive. I will not take all the classes. It is a workshop thing. We'll do specific classes of 17428. And we will also talk about Annexure B, because security and privacy, because everything is on the cloud. So there is no privacy without cloud. So this IS 17428 also talks about the security in the cloud with specific reference to privacy. And then we will have question answers if time permits. So we have the first poll. Please put on the poll. This is a different poll. Now compared to this is testing of your knowledge. Don't agree, disagree, totally disagree, all that is not there. Okay, this is a knowledge based poll. And you start the poll. If it takes time, maybe we can take the next poll. Let us not waste time. Okay, now opening thoughts. There's a lot of confusion between confidentiality versus privacy. Okay, so if I ask you what's the difference between confidentiality and privacy? Yes, sir. What is the difference between confidentiality and privacy? What is the difference between confidentiality and privacy? Huh? 2 keywords, artificial person and individual person. The moment we talk about individual person, we are talking about privacy. This is the clarification we want, the clarity in thinking, which I want. We are CISAs. The moment you talk about individual, it is all about. Okay, and second thing, privacy is a subset of confidentiality. Artificial person, natural person. Confidentiality versus privacy, we need to have the clarity. Then, there is something called a conundrum. How many of you know what's a conundrum or a paradox? What is the meaning of conundrum or a paradox? Opposites. On one side, we are talking about privacy. On one side, Facebook, Twitter, they are going to the High Court of Chennai and telling we want Aadhaar card mandatory for making the Facebook account or a Twitter account. Is it a paradox? Why do they require it? Why do they require it? They want to avoid fake profiles. On one side, you are fighting for Aadhaar to be this one, private, blah, blah, blah. On the other side, so all these cases have been moved from High Court of Chennai to Supreme Court. Now it is lying there. So this is what. And when we talk about privacy versus this, there's Richard Posner, one of the leading attorneys in US. He talks about privacy is dash best friend. Any guesses? Whose best friend? Government's best friend? No. Terrorists. How did you know, madam? Did you attend my session? He's put on the questions. Okay, please answer then. Please answer with a poll. Please answer. I've leaked one question now. Everybody will get 100%. Good one. Back, poll. Podunga poll. Still bad. Okay, next poll. 4 questions are there in that. You did not answer, it's auto default. Are you doing the poll? Okay, I'll continue. Okay, fine. So then we talk about personal identifier, data, personal. If you're putting, please inform me and then do it. Don't give me jatkas like this. Okay, now. So next one, we are talking about standards, frameworks, laws, and regulations. So when you talk about the landscape of this one, we need to know. So the first one is standards, ISO 27701, 27018. Now, as I said, 2 flavors of the season. And when you talk to your customers, business, everywhere, though word low, you will get your business. Cyber security, privacy. Cyber security, privacy. So everybody wants to jump into the privacy and security bandwagon. So if you look at 27002, which was released in February, it talks about information security, cyber security, and privacy protection. Everything is covered. So one standard for all. That is how they are protecting it. Then there is one more standard called 27018, which is for privacy of the cloud. And there is one thing called 27701, which is data privacy and data protection. That is a certification standard. So 27701 is a certification standard. It is a subset. You cannot get yourself certified under 27701 unless you are 27001 certified. Okay, this is also a myth. People come and ask me, sir, I want 27701. I can give you a 27701 certificate only if you are 20001 certified. Okay, good. Then we come to talk about frameworks. The frameworks we are going to talk about, NIST has come out with privacy framework. NIST has come out with cyber security framework. As I said, everything, 2 flavors go hand in hand. Okay, and then there's something called Guide to Protecting the Confidentiality is also another NIST standard. Then all of us know GDPR, COPPA, California, etc. Then you have got something called the Cloud Act of US, and then you have got ISACA guidelines as well on this. And then there is something which websites are getting certified, trustee certified privacy. So certification of privacy is also a big business now. Information security certification, privacy certification also a big business. Now, so Infosys is one of the early birds in this sector, which got ISO 27701 certified. I got the opportunity to be involved in that as a subject matter expert. So in fact, the photo you see this is from where? It is from the Infosys boardroom. You can see all the chief of Infosys behind that. So yes, 27701 is the standard. Then when you talk about NIST cyber security privacy framework, please read these 2. This is my favorite, where you want clarity. If you ask me in clarity of thought, NIST cyber security framework is done very well. All others are control C, control V. You read SEBI circular, you read RBI circular, everything is control C, control V. There is no life beyond control C, control V. If you want anything, please read NIST cyber security framework. It is all encompassing. And all other things, you built it inside that. Similarly, they have come out with NIST privacy framework, which talks about identify, govern, control, communicate, protect. And they are also given the intersection. So cyber security and privacy risk is an intersection with the common area here. Breach, privacy risk, protect, detect, respond, recover. So these 2 together will give you a nice overview of both of standards. Now, compliance roles are evolving worldwide. This is also a very important site, those who are interested in privacy, DLA-PiperDataProtection.com. You will get across the world the flavors of various laws of various countries. I'm not going to go into that. So you have got Canada's laws, you have got Malaysia, you have got EU GDPR. Now we are talking about Brexit. All of you know what is Brexit. So the moment Britain comes out of European Union, what happens? One more new privacy law. They will not be following the GDPR. They will have to have something new. Then China has the law, South Korea has the law, Japan has the law, Hong Kong, Taiwan, everywhere. And this gives you a map. Green means limited, heavy, and moderate. And some areas like Antarctica, no people, so it is white. Okay, there is no privacy law at all there. Okay, so this is a very good site for privacy professionals. Then comes is the poll ready? Okay, the second poll. Now don't do the first poll. Everybody will get 100%. Okay, now. Yes, start. No problem. Let him enjoy. Yes, share the answer. Still people are sleeping in this crowd. That is the summary of 11%. Next. How many? What is this? This question was already discussed. So I know how attentive the audience is. Okay, next. This is not there. How much? Which one? 3. Got the right one. 46%. Sir, Indians, we the citizens of India should at least know our fundamental right. Okay, we don't know fundamental duties. Right to pata chahiye. Okay, very bad. Next. 46%, 21, Article 21. Yes? My God, 52% are telling ISO. Framework, 1 minute. There is a difference between a standard and a framework. Standards, who publishes? Standards, bodies. And frameworks are published by whom? It can be anybody. It can be ISACA, it can be, in this case, for India, it is DSCI. Yes, but 52% of them got it wrong. So, point to ponder. Next. Still people are varied views, we will discuss that. Yes, sir. Which one? Sir, we are talking about a Supreme Court order, we are talking about Aadhaar, we are talking about... That is not the question, I will come to that. Please hang on, okay? Yes, that's all. Over, na? This side is over. Next, up, swap. Okay, now we come to the Indian landscape. So we have seen the global landscape, now we come to the Indian landscape. So the first story of privacy starts not with the PDP. Please remember, lot of bankers I saw. How many bankers here? Now nobody will raise the hand. Okay, yes sir, tell me what is SICRA? SICRA. Tell me what is SICRA, 2005. That day I have retired already. Okay, so the history of privacy in India starts with Credit Information Companies Regulation Act. Okay, privacy is all old wine in the new bottle, that's all. 16 years as bankers, privacy of credit information has been clearly defined as per chapter 6 of the SICRA. It talks about information privacy principles and furnishing of credit information. So go back in time to 2005. Chaitanya took us to 2030. He took us in future, I am taking you backwards. Okay, so then came 2008, we had section 43A added. And if you look at it, in my personal view, 40% of PDP is nothing but repackaging 43A. Okay, even if you tell PDP is not come, let us have a party. That is not right. Why? 43A still prevails. Till such time your PDP comes, section 43A still prevails. Section 43A rules, rule 4 of information technology, reasonable security practices and procedures still talk about privacy. Your privacy policy should be published on the website, is the rule 4. It is there since 2011. Today, 11 years over. Don't blame the government for everything. Okay, then comes 2010. This is the framework which I was talking about. Some of you have answered it rightly. 2010, we had the DSCI policy framework which was launched. And finally, we had 2016, we had the Aadhaar Act, where also they talked about the confidentiality and privacy related to the Aadhaar. Then, if you ask me, 2018 was the year of privacy discussion. Okay, how did we start? So, there is, how many of you know this person? How many of you know this person? Very important person. Anybody from Karnataka should know him. And he is the cause, like we used to tell in our school days. Why was Einstein born? Because of him, we have to study the theory of relativity. Similarly, why was this person born? He is the backbone or pain of privacy. Anybody knows him? How many of you heard about Puttuswamy? He is the same Puttuswamy. 92-year-old, retired High Court judge of Karnataka. He went into the Supreme Court and it asked for this Article 21. Somebody was asking, privacy is a fundamental right under the Indian Constitution. That is the Supreme Court judgment. There were two questions which was delivered in March 2018. In 2008, the question to the Supreme Court was one, whether privacy is a fundamental right under the Indian Constitution. Question number 2 was whether Aadhaar infringes the right to privacy. These were the two specific questions which was asked. And in March, the Supreme Court came out with telling that privacy is a fundamental right. They reserved the judgment on Aadhaar and referred to a separate bench, and they told they needed more time. So the day Article 21 came into being or modified, where privacy is a fundamental right, then the journey starts. Then what happened? In July, TRAI, all of you know what is TRAI? Okay, they came out with their own sectoral privacy guidelines. Then we had this gentleman. Do you know this person? Huh? Justice Sri Krishna. Now I'll ask you English. He is a polymath and a polyglot. What do you mean by polymath and a polyglot? Now English question, not an information security question. Huh? Yes, multilingual is what? Polymath, polyglot. And what is polymath? He can talk on many subjects. Other than this, he can talk on Abhijnana Shakuntalam, he can talk on finance, he can talk on most of things. And he was also there not only in PDP, in the Bombay riots, there was a Bombay blast, 1992, there was a Sri Krishna commission. Okay, then recently there was a ICICI, that lady, Chanda Kochar. For that also B.N. Sri Krishna was involved because they formed a committee under him. So see the polyglot capabilities of B.N. Sri Krishna. Okay, so his report was given to table it in the parliament. Then as all of you know what happened in July, it was tabled and immediately referred to a specific committee. Okay, it went to the committee and then you know what happened further. I don't have to talk about it. Okay, then the Supreme Court verdict came very clearly telling Aadhaar does not infringe the right to privacy. That is very, very important. That is a landmark judgment. However, private companies cannot use Aadhaar. That is how it came because of DBT, so many other things are there. So I am not going into that because Aadhaar is itself one, it does not infringe the right to privacy. That is the judgment as far as Aadhaar is concerned. Then what happened? PDP bill introduced, referred to select committee. Then there's also another important thing called data empowerment and protection architecture, by Niti Aayog, which also talks about how to protect the various data. I have not seen the final, it is still in draft stage. I don't know how long it is going to be in draft stage. Then came our 2000, we had IS 17428. It was released in 2 parts. That is the subject of our discussion. And finally, 2022, we had the PDP bill withdrawn. So that is what, I don't know, a lot of people with gray hair will know there was a movie called Sergeant. Anybody has seen that movie? Okay, so there is a famous dialogue there. Aayegi, Jarur Aayegi. So PDP bill, Aayega, Jarur Aayega. So the dialogue goes on. Okay, and my personal views is it is withdrawn is good. Otherwise, we had avial, we had khichdi, we had undiyo. You know what is avial? What is avial? Yes, okay. What is undiyo? Yeah? It is again, if you go to Gujarat, I know no Gujuba is here. Undiyo is equivalent of avial in Gujarat. And then if you go to Bengal, you have got what is called the Bhogir Khichdi. Bhogir Khichdi, they put all types of vegetables. So this select committee, if you ask me personally, Sri Krishna committee should have been adopted to the T and then work upon it. But then political diplomacy, it went into select committee. There also our friend told, Shashi Tharoor told, it should come to me, come to me, come to me. It was not given to him. Political diplomacies. In the final act that which was supposed to be tabled in the parliament, there were only 98 sections and there were 88 amendments. Okay, so having read it totally, 98 sections are there and this JPC has given 88 amendments. Is it khichdi or not khichdi? Then they told knock off personal. Don't make it personal data protection, talk about data protection. So the future is to be talked about in the next session. Navi sir has come or not, I don't know. Yes sir, you are there. Namaste, you are my guru. Okay, now. So this is he is going to talk about the future of PDP after this. Then there is something called privacy activism. So if you want to be privacy crusader, you want to tell privacy is my birthright and take it, there are a lot of movements which you have to do it. But my personal view is what? There is something called the bottom of the pyramid. 135 crore population. The last session also we were talking about this. Do they know, understand what is privacy? That is the challenge. That is one of the biggest challenges when we talk about bottom of the pyramid in a country like this. Okay, fine. The AC is off or what? It's feeling a bit cold? Oh, hot? It's a bit hot. Yes, please. Okay. Next poll. Okay, 85% of them were aware. Not aware, good. Otherwise, I don't require this session. 50% are aware. Okay, fine, good. Next. Good. It is not a certification standard. Okay, 74% of them got it. Right. Next. Is there any more question here? Yes. Okay. Yes, yes. Still 37% it is charged. No. Okay, it is a free standard. There's another website. I don't know how many of you are aware of. BSB Edge or something like that. BIS. You will get many of the ISO standards also at less than 1,000 rupees. Okay, but you will not get the latest one. 27,002 February version. It will take another 1.5 years to be launched on our BIS site. It costs you 16,000 rupees. This 27,018 I downloaded recently, hardly 430 rupees. So if you want to download any of the ISO standards, wherever BIS is tied up with them, most of the standards are available to you at less than 1,000 rupees. So you can download this standard also from that website. Okay, that's all. Next. Switch. Okay, yes. Okay, good question. Well, go back. This is not. Okay, only 12% of them have said no. Okay, if there is a regulatory requirement, just because I have implemented this does not mean I am compliant, because there are certain contradictions. We will see that. Okay, anything else? Done. Okay, so now background. It is published in 2020, has two parts: engineering and management requirements and engineering and management guidelines. What are the inputs? The base input is ISO 29100. Control C, Control which I said is a nice way of telling that inputs. So, okay, or references. Okay, most of the points it is coming on 29100. So if you can read 29100 also, it's also a good standard as far as this is concerned. It talks about security techniques, privacy framework. Based on that, a lot of inputs have been taken in this standard. Then of course 27013. Where is the applicability? The clause 1.4 talks about personal data in electronic form only is the applicability as per this standard. Okay, now I also put a chart here between requirements and guidelines. So the scope is there in both requirement and guidelines. References, it is same, cross-referring to each other. So 17.428.2 and 428.1. Definitions, they don't have separate definitions. It is the same as in part 1. Privacy engineering, it talks, there are 3 clauses in privacy engineering, 15 clauses in privacy management, which is also there in the guidelines. Compliance is there only in the requirement, it is not there in the guideline. Another additional thing is that it also has the cloud annexure B, which I told is not part of your requirements, it is part of the guidelines. Okay, now, so table of contents, if you look at it, scope, references, definitions, privacy engineering, privacy management, and compliance. These are the 6 topics or the table of contents. Out of this, which is you are seeing in red, I will do a deep dive. Which is in white, I am not going to do the deep dive. I will only discuss and leave it here. So 4.1 talks about development of privacy requirements. 4.2 talks about privacy principle-based design considerations. And 4.3 talks about verification and testing. That is how the 3 subclasses of 4 is about. Then we come to privacy management. This is 5. It has got 15 specific things. Okay, so 15 specific things are talked about. Privacy objectives, data privacy. AC is on? Okay. Then data privacy management system, they have got 5 subclasses. I will be talking about that. Policies and processes 2. Records and document management. Okay, again, records and document even is gone out of ISO 9000. Can anybody tell me the difference between a record and a document? What's the difference between a record and a document? Any people who have done 9000 10 years back will know. Okay. Give me some simple example. Okay. Okay. I'll give you a simple example. You have got checkbooks, right? An unfilled checkbook is a record or a document? Document. Suppose you sign a check and the check is passed by the bank. What is it? Record. So in ISO 9000 we have 2 controls. Control of records is important. Control of document is important. So here our control of record or document failed here because they were showing version 1 instead of showing version 2. Okay, it's a control of document, it has failed. Now, so similarly here also they talk about records and document management. Then they talk about privacy impact assessment, 2 sections, data processor management, privacy risk management, we will see that, privacy incident management, data subject request management, 6 subclasses, grievance redressal, 2, staff competency and accountability, 4, ongoing regulatory compliance, periodic audits, measurement and continuous improvement. So this is the privacy management has got 15 clauses or sections, whatever you want to call it. Okay, then additional annexures is legal provisions in India on data privacy. Then annexure B talks about, as I already mentioned, security and privacy consideration for cloud infrastructure. Finally, what happens? The more you read, the more you get confused. Who said it? No, I said it. Everything you will put into Confucius. Okay, you will go and search Google on this, you will not get it. So to create confusion, I put Confucius. Okay, I said it. The more you read, the more you get confused. Dimag ka dahi in Hindi. Okay, so now let us see. But nevertheless, we will do some comparison also. Now let us do some deep dive. Huh? Polls? No polls? Over? Okay, good. Lucky. Okay, now, so let us do deep dive some select clauses. So before I go to the ISO 17428, I will go to this DSCI framework, which also talks about 9 principles. Okay, the 2010, it talks about 9 principles. IS 17428 also talks about 9 principles. Notice, choice and consent, collection limitation, use limitation, access and correction, security, disclosure to third party, openness and accountability. This is how the 9 principles they have given, and they also talk about 9 pillars here. Visibility over personal information, regulatory compliance intelligence, information usage and access, then you got privacy organization and relations, privacy contract management, privacy awareness and training, privacy policy and process, privacy monitoring and incident management, and personal information security. This is how the DSCI framework is there. If you compare that with 17428, you will see a lot of similarities. So what I have done to avoid your confusion, I have to spend some 2-3 hours. So I did a map table here. Okay, I did a map table of 17428, the 9 principles. You have got DCI 9 principles. I'll post it on my LinkedIn page later. It will be shared. Okay. So then you have got ISACA has got 14 principles of privacy. Okay, that book I showed you in the beginning. That also I mapped it here. Then 29100, did we discuss? Okay, so 29100 then, and I also done the GDPR. So the first principle is personal data collection and limitation. That is the first principle. The same thing is mentioned in DSCI as collection, limitation, legitimate purpose, data minimization and data minimization. What is the principle of data minimization? Tell me. Okay, are we doing it? I'll give you a simple example of data minimization we are not doing. How many of you know GST number? If I am collecting a GST and validating a GST, should I get the customer's PAN also? But how many for vendor registration, how many of you are asking GST number and PAN? Are we minimizing the data? You understood what I am saying? People are not applying design thinking. Where is Chaitanya? This is what is called as design thinking, which he was talking about. There is no logic in taking a PAN when you are validating or getting his GST, because GST includes the PAN. So at least one simple example of data minimization. Have you understood? Okay, that's the best example I can give you about data minimization. Then you have to give what is called as the privacy notice. We will talk about it. That's why it is in red. So same thing, notice, openness, transparency, and notice, openness, transparency, and notice. Information to be provided where personal data are collected from the data subject. Then choice and consent. Same name, that is why I put 2. So for DSCI, it is the second principle, and for ISACA, it is the first principle. There it is called consent and choice. Conditions for consent. Then you have got use limitation, which is 4, which is 2, collection limitation, purpose limitation. What do you mean by use limitation? You go to buy a Videocon refrigerator. Do you require your PAN? Correct. So that is what data limitation, for purpose for which? Data accuracy, access and correction, accuracy and quality, and accuracy. That is how the fifth principle is going on. Then comes security of the private PII. That is important. DSCI is exactly same. ISACA talks about security safeguards. ISO 29100 also talks about information security, and GDPR talks about integrity and confidentiality, which is CIA, which is part of All of us know security. Then disclosure and transfer, same disclosure to third party vendor management, lawfulness, fairness and transparency. Then you have got personal data storage limitation, nothing is mentioned in this two. Retention and disclosure information and storage limitation. Then they have got design consideration to fulfill other rights of data subject. So this gives you an overall 360-degree view of all the important principles of privacy vis-a-vis 17428. Now, privacy notice. The organization shall provide privacy notice to the individual prior to collection of personal data. Correct? They have to give you a notice. In which language should I give the notice? Local language. Why? Why should I give local language? Why should I give local language? Why should I give local language? See the subclauses. Under which subclauses will it come? Ease of readability, accessibility. Okay, so for that accessibility and comprehensibility, you should give in the language which they understand. If you go to Aadhaar Act, it tells local language as well. If you go to the Aadhaar Act, when they're talking about a notice, it talks about giving the notice in local language as well. Okay, so that is one important aspect, accessibility and comprehensibility. Time of providing. What is timing of providing? When should you give? Before the service is given or after the service is taken? Before. Okay, and then mode of communication. What is the mode of communication? How many of you get, once you sign terms and conditions, does anybody bother to send you the terms and conditions by mail? Is it important? Correct. So whenever you open an account opening form with Zerodha, some good companies do it. If you open an account with Zerodha, they will send you the signed form through a mail to you. I don't know how many of you have seen it. It's an important one, right? So that is also very, very important. And then contents, what the content should be, ease of readability, etc. Then we come to security, because this is our discussion point. So personal information should be secured by use of appropriate controls to ensure that confidentiality, integrity and availability, all this we know, should deploy appropriate security measures commensurate. The keyword is commensurate. Now that is very subjective term. What is commensurate is very subjective. It can vary from organization to organization. Under that it talks about security of data at source, security data at rest, in motion, security of environment and retention of access logs. This is how this topic is there. Then comes DPMS. This is very important, which is called data privacy management. So you should have a DPMS, like ISMS, like QMS. You should have what is called as a DPMS. Okay, so what does the DPMS talk about? It talks about, first thing in DPMS, what we will do? Data classification. So logically it has come. Inventory of personal information. That also I think somebody discussed in one of the visibility. Okay, the first thing I ask for an audit, not privacy, give me the asset register and network diagram. These two I will get last. Asset register and network, I don't know how many of you share the same experience. Without a proper asset inventory, how can you do risk assessment or how can you do audit? So data classification, inventory, then process depicting flow of personal information. Very important. This is your, what do you call it? DFD, data flow diagram. Is it very important? Okay, so this is very clearly talking about flow of personal information, change in processing or data inventory. You should update your this one, process management, processes, and triggers for updating. When should you update it? As and when changes happen, as and when regulatory changes happen, as and when environment changes happen. All these things is part of your DPMS. Then, Kadavule. All of you know Kadavule, right? And it's my favorite, Vadivel. So what is the Kadavule here? Risk management versus privacy impact assessment. Two sections. One is 5.8, 5.6. In my personal view, this was not required because 29.100 tells what? Please read. One volunteer to read it, sir. Very important. Yes, sir. Can you read? Read, yes. Please read this. 29.100 definition. This is the definition from 29-100, where we as practitioners get totally confused. What is this privacy assessment, risk assessment, privacy impact assessment, and risk assessment? Should I do it 2 times? You get my point? The biggest question I had in my brain, the risk assessment in ISO 27000 is there. Should I do privacy impact assessment? So that has been cleared in the definition. The definition very clearly says this process is also known as privacy impact assessment. And 17428 has got this statement. Yes, sir, can you read this? Periodic. Okay, so again, both mean the same thing. One you will do every 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, whatever you define. Another when you do, that is periodic. Trigger, PDP has come, or some IT Act, now they are talking about some IT laws amendment. It comes, then what will you do? Then will you do risk assessment or do you PIA? In this context, it is telling we will do this. It should do privacy risk assessment, and risk management means the same thing. This could have been avoided in that standard. Okay, then the next one, another big confusion when you are doing risk management. I always urge everybody to study this one chart by heart, because risk assessment, risk management, risk measurement, all khichdi. Okay, so here it talks about the triggers, criteria for risk evaluation, privacy risk response. We should start risk assessment. If you look at it, please understand this entire blue line is from ISO 31000, is all about risk management. And risk management has got the risk assessment component. The risk assessment component has got risk identification, risk analysis, risk evaluation. So risk assessment is one group. Then you have got risk treatment as one group. Then you have got recording and reporting, monitoring and review, communication and consultation. This entire thing together becomes what is called as risk management. Please go and read ISO 31000. If you are in risk management, to get clarity, I would go by this. That is how it is. Though don't go by risk management process. You have to go through this specific sub-stages of the risk management. Okay, then data subject request management. What is request management? So one of you can read. Yes, Vijay Kumar. Okay.
Data subjects, data including deletion, service level agreement including aspects on time and cost as applicable.
Okay, good. So how to manage a data subject request management? So one is access to view the data. Now do you know in how many places you have given your data? How many places you have said I agree? There is a beautiful app called mineapp.com. It will also tell you. Now for that you have to give 4 permissions. Then don't ask me. Mineapp.com is a very powerful site where you will know what is happening, and there is also something called an financial aggregator now, the framework where you give your consent once. All the banks, you don't have to do KYC multiple times. All those things are happening in this country. The DEPA which we saw, okay, based on that they are building what is called as a financial aggregator model. So access to view the data, mineapp.com is a very good example. Ability to update the data, then access to privacy notices, which I said. Now privacy notices keep changing. Why should they send you the moment you do it? Because there can be version controls, right? You would have said I agree 10 days back, and they have changed the terms and condition. How do you know which version you have signed? So you cannot go to the latest one. That is why I think Microsoft and others send you notices now. The privacy notice is changing, please read through. That's all happening. That's a very mature system where they send you this one. So ability to update, access to privacy notice, requesting mechanism. How do I request if I want my data to be this one? SLAs, within how many days? And considerations for fee. Okay, here they are telling you can also charge. Now what I said, in India, if you look at the old PDP bill, you cannot charge for certain services. Updation of your data. The data entry operator galti se mistake kar diya and he wants to change male to female. Can that person charge you? Technically no, but that was also provided in the PDP bill. Here they are talking about you can considerations for fee subject to the law, whichever is applicable. So even though IS 17428 tells free, if the law says you can charge, then that will prevail. That was one of the poll questions. Okay, then staff competency and accountability. This is very important. This is not there. This is a good point which I liked. It is there in 29-100. It talks about staff and contractors handling personal information shall be competent, kept aware, and their accountability is established for any actions related to processing of personal information. Again, this is taken from 5.10, which talks about accountability, providing suitable training for personnel of PII controller who will have access to PII. So you should have traceability to employees' action. So copy, paste, who is updating, all that has required. Then training and awareness. ISO 27000 also talks about one more word, which is that 27001 talks about one word is there before training and awareness. I heard the right word somewhere. Education, right? Education, training, awareness. What's the difference between the three? What is the difference between education, awareness, and training? What is the difference between the three? ISACA, CPE, CDPSE is what? Education. What is awareness? Janta public, for Tom, Dick and Harry, you need to have awareness, and the person who is handling the desk, he needs training. So all three are important, but this standard talks about training and awareness. Employee declaration, this is there for ISO also, this is standard NDA, correct? All employers have to sign the NDA, same thing here. And then disciplinary action also is mentioned in this 5.12. Then, so we finished that. This is a peep into that. Now we will look at the annexure B of the part 2. So what are we talking about? We are going to talk about security and privacy concern for cloud infrastructure, because cloud and privacy is now inseparable. Okay, so we are looking at that. So they have got an annexure there also. Now compliance to applicable regulations. Organization should be aware that despite outsourcing the process activities to the cloud, it continues to be with the data controller. Data controller should comply with data protection laws, which may vary from country to country. Data processor cloud provider is also required to adhere to laws and regulations applicable as stated as part of the contract. So either contractual obligation or regulatory obligation. That is how it is talking about. Now, as I said in the beginning, there is another standard called ISO 27018, which is related to privacy in cloud. So most of the things which is said in 17428 is already there in 27018. So let us look at one of the things is geographical location of PII. So I conducted that cloud workshop. I think many of you are there. Anybody was there in that group? Yes. Can you select your place where you host the resource? Okay, all of you are aware of it. This is where I beg to differ. In public cloud, organization may not have control. Is it a true statement? No. If it is a small cloud provider, I talk about AWS, Microsoft, Azure, GCP, everywhere you can control your locations. But the standard says may not have control. But resource management control is there. This is one point which I don't agree. There are restrictions imposed that on GDPR, blah, blah. This is about localization. Then the next one, data deletion. Data deletion may not be effective due to the following reasons. What is meant by data deletion? Data is not strictly wiped. So suppose I had an account, I'm not using it for 90 days on AWS or 180 days. What happens to that? Only deactivate. Why will they, how long will they keep? So if I have got my GCP environment, I have not done anything for 180 days, what will they do? They will archive, no. They will delete. They will clearly delete my instance, telling you delete, all resources will be deleted. If you want, take backup. Okay, because their virtual resources are getting blocked for nothing. Why will somebody keep the resources waste? So privacy data providers will do it, and if they are doing it, what 27018 talks about, wherever data storage is assigned may data previously residing shall erase. Ensure the data storage is not visible to the cloud service customer, that degaussing, whatever we learned in Isaka. Okay, all that things has to be done by the cloud service provider as per 27,018. Okay, the same thing they are talking here. Data is not retrieved is what they are talking. Okay, then neighbor sub peona risk. This is again legal. Again, Chaitanya talked about CISO being a legal one. So this is something called a sub peona risk. Very difficult to explain to you. I'll give you a simple example. So there's a SaaS application. Typically in a SaaS application, if 10 banks are taking that SaaS application, what happens? Will they create 10 database instances? Will they create 10 database instances? Yes. No, sir, I've seen a lot of companies, they will have the first ID, only one database. The first column will be what? Customer ID. So it will be bank 1, bank 2, bank 3, bank 4, bank 5, right? All of you are getting what I'm saying? In a SaaS model, if there are 10 banks, they will not create 10 databases. They will have only one database, and there will be something called a tenant ID inside. They may create views. Now what happens? From a legal enforcement authority, they take a disk copy of the database for bank A. What happens? All bank data will go, right? Correct. The technical word is called sub peona. Clear? Okay, if it is a physical, they are talking about physical hardware. Where is physical in a cloud environment? I don't understand. What will they take for cloud forensics? They will only take a disk copy, right? Very rarely I'm thinking of people taking the physical hardware. So sub peona risk is very, very important in SaaS, which we have to live with that. Okay, so that is also been talked about. Neighbor sub peona, it can be, this is only an example I gave, that can be virtual instances, etc., to understand what is sub peona risk. Okay, then data breach reporting. So again, as per 27,018, notification to the customer in case of data breach is clearly defined, should promptly notify the relevant cloud service provider. The same thing they are telling here, expect to do it, you have to put in an agreement, etc. Then logs and audit trials also is very important, should be maintained by the cloud provider and made available to organization for processing of data in the cloud, which is already there as part of 27,018. Okay, then comes your data custodian. All of us know who is the custodian. Custodian of data. Organization clearly determine the following and take appropriate steps to have this documented in the contract as well. So if you look at the AWS contract, it is clearly mentioned they are not the custodian. AWS does not hold, does not have anything on the data. Then data privacy clauses. Then data subject access. Privacy regulation may require organization to provide timely access of personal information when requested by employee. Cloud provider should ensure that the data required and recovery is in line with customer exposure. Same thing is there in A.10.3. So PII, return, transfer and disposal. So this is my last slide. Any questions? How many minutes left? Over? Good. Any questions? Huh? You can create, that is again at your hand. Now you can have your separate VM. You can, bare metal VM also you can do your own. That is also available. Reduce, good point. So if you create your own VMs or hardware instances, then the sub peona risk can be, again it's a cost of control. Good, that's a good point. Any other question? All well? Or all is well? Okay, last point. The keynote speaker talked about 3 points on the heart. Does anybody remember? Yesterday, the keynote speaker talked about 3 qualities of the heart which you have to do. Which are the 3 qualities? Inclusive growth, human touch, and the third is the value system. Okay, all this we lost because we lost the language. So I also, in addition to teaching information security, I also teach what is called Sanskrit. So there is something called Sanskritam21.com. If you want to learn the divine language, I've got a YouTube channel, I've got my own website, so you can connect back to our heritage if you are interested. Okay, because as I said, it is related to our topic yesterday, that's why I'm connecting it, not a sales pitch.
Thanks, Nanda.
And you can connect me in LinkedIn.
Really appreciate your time. Can we have the polling, please? Your voting pads. Thank you. May I request Kanan Srinivasan to come on stage, please? Thank you.